Just up and down.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what were the other class that Amy was doing, she was saying that she still. Yeah, people scan. Gotcha. Yeah. Directly to the website. Yes. You like it? Yeah. Yeah, I have my office hours tomorrow. So we'll make it in. That'd be great. Yeah, it might be next year. Okay. Make it out. Yeah.
So how many of the,
I don't know, sometimes it's just me. Josh,
okay,
he shows up sometimes.
who gets here,
Jordan
right?
shows up when it happens sometimes.
Group, and sometimes it's a small. That's awesome. Oh, no, we don't need that here.
Figured
Uh-oh. Like,
I figured I should just stay on.
absolutely. We appreciate that.
Not take
I don't think so. I like, yeah, I have to have something to write on. I have like my outline because I could get in front of me. So. That's perfect for real estate. Yes.
You moved from Chicago. Remember back in Chicago, your best friends? Yeah? You know how you friends?
There you go. There you go. That's how.
Deleted this one. Try to make you fresh.
I'm here since you moved from Chicago.
Good. Number 21.
Okay.
So here we go. I had a building inspection, home inspection company.
Okay. Sure. No, not at all.
But then when I got out here, one in my 50s, all faces now. Which I didn't mind.
Right. Well, you don't mind getting down there. Yeah.
Regulations here.
Exactly. So I always tell my clients, like, be careful who you pay, because they could just literally go preach business. Yeah, no requirements.
I think the first, I tried to get things kind of going, like. But I mean, I only had a few business, the home performance, things like that. Didn't seem like a big thing here. As like a big company. But on the inspection side, oh, my uncle will do it for.
Right. We got to pay for the gas to get there, and yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, he's a good. And there's quite a few, but I'm sorry, Mariah. I'm Amber Burke, and I'm going to teach today. So, but I guess we'll just kind of get started because I have a flight to catch later. I'm going to the UAR, so I'll be heading out there later today. No, I don't have for the convention. I'll be right back, and then I actually have a week, so can't take extra time in San Diego Sad, I know, so sad. So anyway, Mariah, a little bit about that.
I worked at a morning job as a planner. Like, I love your job, but I don't love your job.
Right. You like the people, right? And else and the well, brand new, right? Or ish, right? Yeah, you're brand new. Yeah. July is a hard month for real estate. Nothing. Gotcha. For everybody's traveling and doing stuff, and so it's off the ground is always interesting. I've been a realtor since 1996, so 20 just a little bit. Yeah, I've lived here in Utah since the 1990s. Life I've been a realtor. I refer them out if it's in another, and I just no enough. And even like enough, like I don't try and go other places. I've had a couple clients. This is actually really cute. Some cute little buyers. They were moving here from Chicago. They were getting married and were buying their first house, moving here for like their first just the cutest couple. Sold them their house and they laughed and laughed all the day while we're driving in the car. And then I sold their house when years later. By then they had baby twins, so cute. And then they were moving back to the Chicago after I sold their house and they were back there. They're like, please move here and be our realtor here. This realtor, now you've spoiled us because now we know of, and now we're here and going. I was like, okay, that's what I want to hear, but I'm you guys, like I want to know that I did a really good job. To know that you have that like sense of loyalty. That's I think where we are with bias. And so that's why we're going to talk about today. Tell me your name. Josh. I'm Amber Burke. Tell me.
Ran a personal training business.
Okay. Okay, very cool. Lots of people. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, no, you're good. Yeah. Well, they already company had referred them. They had to use a real system. So, but they were just hello. Want you to move here and be our realtor. I'm like, I'm not guys, like, but they were fun. It was nice to hear. So, okay, so we're going to talk to the buyer, and like I said, winning the buyer can be newer in real estate. Buyers are more because it's more of the experiment, kind of how we're doing this. So we're going to talk about today. So you guys have information, lead follow-up, and now we're actually to the actual transaction. So I have to follow my carefully or I will get us way off topic, and I'm not going to get us too far off topic. We go to about 11, right? All right. So A buyers, what that means, getting the appointment, preparing for the appointment, conducting the appointment, buyer agreement or recap, and then stuff to do. So stop me though if you have any questions. I don't want to see like what you guys are hoping to learn. Like I said, I've been a realtor for 28 years, but what are you guys hoping to get out of today? Vic, that I can address.
So
You grab it.
all about
Mhm.
Another person. and then, like, the transition.
For sure.
How will it be to Cruise life?
Right.
And once they decide to work with you, they go deeper onto.
Talk about that. We'll talk about the needs analysis and like how did it work to them. About that a little bit today. So that
Getting past the awkwardness of the call, because you know why you're there.
right.
And that's just a change that you gotta make for yourself.
And actually, I kind of think that the way it happened, you guys won't even know. It's all you'll know is it is done. But for me, 28 years in business, like it's actually gonna be easier for you guys to have because it's required. You know, it what the conversation get a signed contract required for us to get a signed contract to show a house would call me and I'd say, can I go see this house? And I'd say, sure. And then they buy a house from somebody else. And I'd be like, what just happened here? You know, but for you guys, it's like just common. Like that's just the way things are. Okay, I know that. This is just required. Yeah, it's even people who bought a house last year, they might be a little confused, but you know, it's so. Amy, tell me what you did before real estate before, but oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I always like to know because it helps. Like, I don't even know the skills that you have from your previous job. So that's why I kind of like to know like who's here and what you're. So, okay, cool. Mm-hmm.
Kind of one of those cool stories when I call Monday morning and they're like, see them.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then and I just I thought
Sure. What do you want with the date? Yes. I bought our first house. I should have just waited, but I don't know why. We called someone, we didn't know her. I didn't know any. We called her and asked her to, she did a really good job for back then, 20 something years ago. Probably close to. So she sat us down in her, said, this is how I work. I don't get paid and hours and days showing you houses unless you want to work with me. And we were like taken back, like, oh, we don't know. And she said, so this is what I do. And show you 3 or 4 houses. After decide if you're working with me or not. You know, like it made us just feel so much more, build that trust where we could have a little bit of time with her. See if we liked her, see if she liked us, you know, street, and see if it was going to be a good people, especially people you've just met, that option. We can extend this and be like a trial period, you know, see how this works for both of them. So I love that. Go ahead. Yes. Yes. I fired yeah, there was a fire I almost fired. I was this close, just hard. And I did deal done, everything. We finally found them a house that was like, if I didn't answer the phone when he called, he'd be like, time for me. And I was like, dude, anyway. So I almost fired her, kind of aggressive in that way. And I was and everything. Anyway, he ended up that family bringing more business to me in the long the neighbor. And like I got so much business from that. So I was actually didn't fire him. And he ended up living in my neighborhood. I'm like, but like there was a bit of a rocky period where it was like, so, but there have been, and sometimes the greatest peace you can get is fire, anyway, we'll try and get through the stuff here. Answer the questions that you guys have. Approach to close for a meeting is the only approach you have. So people don't or even more confused about how realtors work. Still get surprised. So I had a client that was referred to me by her. So her sister said, my sister's moving to town now and they want to move here. And they were like older than them. And it wasn't their first house. And I was a little bit extra referral and it was just like, okay, we're just gonna go see. And it wasn't until we like, okay, so now we pay you on top of this. And I was like, oh, they don't even know. Take that time to sit with them and explain how it worked. No, the builder pays me on this one. They should have been more upfront with them with that. And that's what us to do is be more upfront. Like I before they knew how it worked. And even again, like January, I had a client, same situation. They sold a house. And it wasn't until they were paying cash for the house here. So, and we were getting the closing documents to closing. And he said, so on top of that 0.5%? And I was like, no, that's real estate commissions figured in because he had paid 2.5% on the sell side. So he was just I was like, oh man, I really need to do better. What not to do. I'll be the example of what not to do. Yeah, it's true. But now it's, yes. And when my parents sold their house in Connecticut, I was like, what is this? I was like, exactly. So anyway, we're going to ask for the, so we're going to talk about is an A buyer. How do you buyer A, they're ready to go right now. So kind of what you've already been doing for the process, capture, forming the relationships, strengthening the relationship, and then convert them to a client. So the text says if they're ready 14 days, I'm like, that's quick. Most people a little bit more time than that. A buyer to me, somebody who's really ready to go. I mean, great. Like I do work with corporate relocation here and they have 3 days to find a house. I love those buyers, but they can also be a lot of work. I spent a day with a couple of those buyers literally looking at 100 because they were like, well, we want to look anywhere. Like, oh, wow, that's a lot of cover and your price range is pretty broad. But it's 3 days and they're done and they go home, so do that for 3 days. So, especially when they're like, those are definitely A buyers. They need to be here for and they've already sold a house. So do you guys have questions on any of this? Like how that all works? I know before, and we're going to kind of okay, the 7-step buyer service cycle. So got the leads to appointments, leads, obviously, yes, whatever, get them into an appointment. Get them into an appointment, you're gonna have a really hard time with, whatever that is. Consultation. What do you guys think that looks?
process, like.
Having the, I always hate to be not, if they're ready to sign something, not having it there. And why wait? They're ready to sign. Sometimes I have sent buyers away after first time buyers who are like, can I take this? And then decide, yeah, absolutely. So preparing, kind of getting yourself information of where they're coming from, where they're going, starting point, and then getting the pay. Well, we'll talk a little bit today about buyer, like information to give them. Like I always think, okay, so if I go buy a car, I get nothing. I get no paperwork, just what's in the car. I'm driving my daughter's car today, so I'm a little humble. When I go buy my car and it's a nicer car, you get this nice, all the like, ooh, this is so nice, you know, and experience. It's a different experience than me. When we bought my daughter's car, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, your personal check from me and I can just drive this. I'm like, okay, it was the easiest car I ever bought. And then my car, it's like all day long, you're in this. Can I get some food, please? You know, like, I'm like, I'm gonna get, it's awful. You can buy a house. That needs to be streamlined. Sorry, off topic. So yeah, no, you're good.
So you mentioned have a packet together. Is there some place where we can?
Yes. Oh, good, good, good. So they're team.
No, that's
Ah. Pro team? Is it the pro? Yeah.
Oh. I didn't even know. Friday night. The office meeting.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Very week schedule.
There's a communication gap. Thank you. Good to know. You're on it. You are on it.
I thought July when nothing was happening. I looked through the cracks. I didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, July's a rough month. Okay. Oh. Okay, so yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that, but it sounds like depth, which I'm glad because we can't get too deep. And then when you actually have the buyer consultation, what then you go out and start showing them find a home, what that looks like, negotiating the contract, and then getting. People always think once you get under contract, now we're done. When the real work really begins. When we go under contract, I send them an email next. And just so you know, they're about like letting them know what I'm doing. Because I've done it for so long that I forget that like they don't know what I'm doing. Like they need to know my value, like and what I'm doing for them. So in between time, and there's different things depending on the situation. Like I had a client who the house was being built. So I would literally every week to the house being built and take pictures. They loved that, you know, because they weren't here. That little extra step that most agents like probably sealed them as my client for life. Just little things like that. So getting the contract to the negotiating repairs, which is my favorite thing. I'm things like that. So then actually get to the closing. You're you know, they're in this very situation of we have this or we have to go to an in-between place. Who knows? Got to get this closing. I Utah State campus with a tour for my touring the campus, seeing if that's where he wants to go to me and say, a buyer, they were moving from here and they said, we need to pull the plug on this. What? And so I'm like, hey, let me minutes. And so I called him. I'm walking around the campus. And he's like, our house here in Texas is an extension and we're not going to be able to close on this in the time that we need to. I said, what are we talking? And he's like, they need 3 days. Like this, you want to kill, like go nuclear days? Like I can get you. Their emotion and their stress level was so high over the whole thing that he, and once I talked him down from that, so here was in Elk Ridge. I had sold them some land that they were going to build on because they decided they weren't going to build on it, and then just they built. So it's like, and at the closing for the house in Highland, years now, probably more, maybe more, and he's still remember you talking me down off that leg. Just we have to be the calm one action because they are not. And people and reasonable people, a lot is so getting it to the closing can be a absolutely.
They think they know. Confident enough to pick.
It's true.
I have my first list.
Yay. Okay. Nice. Okay, nice. Oh.
And they didn't want until they knew they got under contract. They
Sure.
don't want to do it until they
Get past the it's like 2 weeks away from having to be somewhere.
So she said,
Closed and see if they can stay in the house for 2. That's what I would do because if there's any way to get it closed and then let them stay in the house for 2 weeks, that would, because I have had things happen that you would never think would happen. Like I literally, we did on a Friday, the buyer was going to close on Monday. Took off out of state, they were moving, took their truck and were heading. The buyer's lender actually called and did the re-verification of employment. So absolutely, he still works here. He will have a job time, and Friday afternoon he got laid off. What? Like they literally just called and they said, oh yeah, he works here, he's great. Weirdness could happen, so you got to protect your client. But yeah, if they're flexible and they're yeah. Mm-hmm.
your clients come to you kind of stressed.
Right. Just I kind of like, yeah.
Like, well, that's a Thursday. Even like, no, we'll do a final wall.
Okay.
Not the 18th.
Right. Well, not necessarily. They can still be
It says in the contract.
upon okay, so they would need, so let's say they need to be out and completely moved out by the time it records. 9 in the morning, usually it's afternoon of the same day.
I don't want to move out until my account.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Still has the funds.
They're gonna let you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's not, because if title to solve, it's closed and recorded, it's technically, I mean, you could potentially work in the, okay, or maybe if they're willing to be negotiable after recording, be moved out. That could work, or whatever timeline they agree to. You can, I would have probably tried to do it at the beginning. Oh man. So you've got time. This is fast. So yeah, I mean, because the confusion of that timeline is pretty fast. So sometimes it's the day of, actually gone and done a final walkthrough with a buyer and like so.
These are things we just figure out as we.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can like, yeah, you can do, it's called a lease back, with a formal lease back. If it's like set or something, usually I don't worry with that. I would do the lease back because it kind of outlines who's paying this, you know, whatever, that kind of. But if it's like a week or two, it just depends. Kind of, yeah.
Maybe just let them stay here.
Actually had a client stay in their house for 30 days rent free, in a house I just sold. So you, no, I mean, the questions. I think that's your job, is to ask the, would this be a possibility? Let's see what we can work out. You know? And I would shoot for higher, somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Walkthrough,
Mhm.
72 hours a week, whatever.
That happened once.
Have your something.
Yeah, I've only had it happen once where they're getting out when they needed to. It's not common, but this was a situation. The woman was, how do I say it nicely? Addicted to drugs. Nice way to say it. And she was older, just struggling, and she wasn't out. And my friend was actually the agent on the other side of it, and we have to help her get out. What into a week, and she was supposed to be out before, you know, like, so we, as she brainstormed, what can we do to help her get out? Because my clients, luckily, were pretty chill, and they weren't needing investment, but that's the only happened to me. And it's like, you just work with the other agent as best. The one time I've had major damage was actually house, and we went and did a walkthrough, localized it, like literally taking a baseball bat to the walls. I was really, really glad we did a walk. We need to do a walkthrough. I'm like, based on this experience, I would never skip it, because we did the baseball bat to the walls. You know, it looks terrible. Done that walkthrough, we would have not been able to buyer, because they accept it as is at closing. So, no, we, yep, till the repairs were done. Yep. You know, they were like, sure, yeah, we'll take it. So, and as I should, you know. So, but those are the 2 times in 28 years where I've had major problems. Very cautious of like making those walkthroughs. I had one agent one time, the agent wasn't going to let us do a final walk. And I was like, what? I'll let you guys do that. And I was like, okay, now you've made me more suspicious than I ever was. I'm not going to settle for this. And it's the one time, yeah. He was just a jerk. This little guy I had to tell off because he was calling me sweetie. Oh, hell no. We don't do that. Like, unless your wife or your daughter is in the transit, don't do that in business. No way. Don't you do. Like, I don't think so. Yeah. Nothing. He was just a jerk. He's a jerk of an agent making it so.
Difference between 1 and 3?
That is like you met to an appointment, and then 3 is when you actually sit down with them.
So are you having the sign on 3,
Yeah. Mhm.
not 1?
Good if they were ready to. Let's sit down and talk more about your situation. Yeah. So, and then 7, this is W for going on, I think we're going on 8 years now. So it's 20 years at a different brokerage. I deal with the post close. And I was lucky a lot of times like me and did want to work with me again because I never kept, like I was the worst because I didn't know what else to do. No one ever taught me that. And so I would have clients literally years later just did. But like I could imagine how much better I actually stayed in touch with people, you know? Yeah, or even consistency of, you know, them or, you know, if I call them or text them or email, you know, it is, they call it the 36 touch here in a year is a great thing to do. They remember your name. They remember the worst I ever had. When I was at the other brokerage, I had of mine call me up and say, "Are you?" And I was like, "Dang, I am not doing my job." You know, if they don't even know if I'm still in real estate, that's fair.
Someone who is about
Mhm.
the lawyer.
Oh,
Sister was a realtor.
what? Didn't know that my sister. Oh, wow. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, people are funny sometimes, and good friends of mine too. Like where it's like, wait, it's like, hello, we just talked yesterday. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's not an issue. Or sometimes when it's like, I've had clients who've told me, they're like, we have 2 people and we can't choose between them, so we're just not going to use it. So I helped them, you know, or it's just uncomfortable for you to know their situation or whatever. So
Friends with my son's best friend. And I'm just more sad about it.
right.
And I, like being their realtor would be, and then,
Too close.
yeah, I mean, I'll let them decide that to them.
But you also, who else is going to care? Right? Yeah, because, well, number one, neighborhood. So you have the most to gain from the value. I've used that tons of times in my own neighborhood. Like, who than me? I live right here. Them as human beings, so you're not going to take advantage of like some agents might. So I'll start, and really, truly, they want someone they trust. They don't know who they can trust. People out there that will, you know, manage,
I
unfortunately.
yesterday afternoon with my neighborhood asking emails. So I'm going to start doing emails, and I sent a picture of me with my list.
Love it.
And so just in case you haven't seen this, and
Right. I love
I
that.
found out. So I'm like, well, at least I advertised.
And you, yeah, exactly, exactly. A lot of times, especially when you're new in real estate, don't know that you're in real estate. Them over and over and over because they're like, oh yeah, real estate license. Okay, a lot of people do that. So, or my sister does, but I don't even know. Seriously, how funny is that?
So,
Yeah, but not everybody. Some,
so approach that if, um, and I want to touch base with them because they know,
connections. Yeah.
but I know they say, I know they know.
Sure.
Because they bought 2 houses since I've known.
Doesn't mean,
But you just kind of, hey, I'm not really gonna talk about work, or do you? Or the referrals?
yeah, I mean, I think that you can get, you never know, even though they've bought houses. They may have had an agent like me who didn't keep in touch with them. I've literally helped a client sell a house. Have these words. If we could remember our agent's name, house, we would have used her. Right. Right. They couldn't remember her name. And was listed, and then someone brought an offer on their house. That's her. I was like, oops. I couldn't remember her name. So you just never know what kind of, not every agent is going to be a fit for every seller. So like just having, whether it's out of state or in state, I was given, and like one's going to be a better.
I would also say that unless it's like really close to that, they don't owe that agent. They don't owe us.
They're not tied to that.
It's really not that hard to sway them onto you. And all this enthusiasm
And providing value, and honestly, the day they need to make that decision, because I have had clients for neighbors that were for years. House is worth for over and over and over for years, and they sold it. I had moved out of kind of in the neighborhood, but I wasn't close to them. Another had moved into the neighborhood right by them and close. When they needed to make the decision, he was in front of me and I wasn't. So you just never know. You're good. Mm.
I know you work for a lot to start your business.
That's the thing as a new, yeah, you have time on your side. You are busier, don't have the time or the creator stuck in their ways or things. Exactly, your baby. I love it. Yes. Got my real estate license 22 years. I was like just 4. I was still in college. I was working full time. I don't know anybody but other people our age because I'm not Connecticut. Yeah, other college kids that live in and whatever. So was actually someone who had been an employee of mine at a job. They bought this $1,000 condo just up the street off of Center Street in Durham. Because that transaction, another one of their friends who I didn't know, snowballs, one buyer to 6, who did they up and needing to buy their first condo or whatever. So that's where I was. I literally did not know anyone was here or anything like that. It was just kids. That's where I was at. So do a good enough job that people would say. But for me, but young and inexperienced, doing what we can. All right, so we're at time. I know we are. Keep going till I'm just keep checking the times. Okay, so so getting to the appointment. Okay, how are you going to convert those? You respond right away. Contact information. So many on the website or whatever. If it says Mickey Mouse, I'm sorry, but I'm so get it. And then their motivation. It's where there's a phrase in real estate that I hate. And it's because value one thing and or what their motivation is, or their motivation from this day to tomorrow. What is their real motivation? Is it because pregnant with triplets and they are not going to fit? Is it because they just want to like in the world? Is it just what is their motivation? Be here close to their ailing mother is the reason. So that's super. A lot of times when you just meet someone, they tell you the glossy version motivation is, but you got to dig a little deeper to get motivation. That's going to help you. What's going to help them buy a house. So I tell this story. Sister-in-law, they lived Farmington up north of Lake, and they moved to Pennsylvania. And years, they had an acre lot. They were different. It's a different place. And then our price range, and again, this dates me. My son was a baby and he's 25 now and married. So I was leaving my son at my mother-in-law's and they were like, our price range is between 250 and 400 and $1 million. You know, like that's a big range, huge range. And we want to look in this county. I was like, holy cow. I literally, sister-in-law and her husband showed them 100 houses, offers on probably 6 of them. Don't want anything that's less than 1/4 of an acre. And coming from an acre, downside lot, at least 1/4 of an acre. So criteria in the MLS at 0.25. The house they bought was not found on the MLS for them. She called me. I saw in the newspaper this house. How come we haven't seen it? I looked on the MLS and it was because it was 0.4 of an acre. We hadn't seen it. We the house in 4 counties. We had not seen that one before. And she was very firm that she wanted 0.4. And I was like, okay, buyers will tell you, but there might have a little house, except it's 0.01 of it, and what she said. They'll wiggle. The other houses we made offers on, they were like, well, if we can get it for, like, you know, so we made offers on houses they didn't like, just cause. And I was like, I wasted so much, sat on the market for months and live in it to this day. So flexible, but the with that is when they're talking about price. Hey, when you watch those home shows on TV, when they say my budget is, it doesn't show them something that's 750, like that, because it's like that is not what I asked for. Why? I'm like up front. You tell me 500,000, I'm gonna put 500,000. If you want a little wait, you tell me, because I'll go to 525 or. But if you don't tell me, I'm gonna stick hard. Want you to feel like I'm pushing you to a higher price range, comfortable with. So.
$2,000 renovation limit. Hey, we got these $2,000.
No, no. Yeah, exactly. It's not possible. So crazy. So time and date as soon as possible. Uh, This just happened to me, going on, and my neighbor called me and said, I have these clients I want to refer to you. I tell them tomorrow. And she's like, yeah, by met with somebody else. And they were like, oh, we don't. So just sometimes timing. So, okay. So I couldn't,
Well, then.
yeah, it's like, I wasn't there, right? But it's just timing, anxious to get things figured out, and they don't want to wait. How are we going to get them to make an appointment with us? Obviously nowadays it's going to be easier, but we want. So, what do you think? What's something we could share as the benefit of working with us?
Needs.
Mm-hmm. In the text, it says something with me could save you hours of time and years in your search. Would that benefit? And a little cheesy. Yeah, well, make it your own. I agree, 100%. I've never. Make it your own. Like, hey, I can help this way. If we sit down together, help me know what you want, and it's going to save us time and all the things that we really want to do all the research. So having them know that for them, but yeah, make it your own language. That's say it for sure.
One of them, I had a the open house.
Mm-hmm.
They decided something, but they went to another listing. Days after mine closed, I just called.
Yeah.
Your offer. I said, contract. I said, congrats, that's so exciting. She texted me a few days later and she said,
The sellers changed their mind?
yes. Oh, but they are unrepresented buyers. Are
Yes.
a little bit
Naive. Oh, the seller may have, yeah, the seller can't get out of the contract once they're under contract.
now. She texted me and she said, "You not let me know, I'm like, for sure. I'll let you know."
Yeah.
But she said, but we still want to be. And I
Huh?
just didn't address it. I just said, good luck. I'll let you know. They don't want to have an agent.
Why don't they want it?
They told me they thought that they wouldn't have to pay the home for 3% less, and that would be a
Mm-hmm.
seller. I'll tell you what, as
Nope.
they were a lot more work.
Right.
So I took, after a day or two, and try to explain to them that
Yes. And part of that, I've told people have called me on my listings before and give me half of the buyer side agents. Why would I give you money? I'm representing, I'm not going to give you money. That doesn't doing that how would they feel? Like, tell them like the commission's pre-negotiated, like it's figured out, it's in the price. So the listing agent where I'm like, I'm not giving for you who I'm going to have to do more work than give up money, because I've already negotiated that with between me and my seller. It's not between me and the. But yeah, like I just think, well, it's a very Utah County thing still. So they are going to try and, but again, they're not, well, my first time buyers especially, it's kind of Burke's like, hey, you wouldn't go into a court attorney, would you? That's kind of what you're doing. Walk into an open house and you're relying on the listing agent, but you're relying on them for any kind of information. You're relying on someone else's represent, and you don't know what they're, they're out to make money, obviously, out for you at all. They're not supposed to be. Their job is seller. Their job is to get their seller the very best there. And I've had buyers in that situation come, like, I'm like, okay, well, I'll help you write the offer on. They sat down in my office. We started writing, said, well, we want to offer this, but if they, like, I have to tell them, say that to them, but I'm like, they're not as smart as they think they're smarter, and that did not help those buyers in my office. So
I remember the guy's name. He's like, I love when people come.
oh, for sure.
Take advantage.
Of them, but I'm looking out for my seller, Exactly.
It's gonna be
To some degree, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and they think they do, but is it okay? So here's another one. A client that I sold them another house. They told me when they bought the house that I was selling, and the for sale by owner insisted that they not, because they had been working with an agent. We won't work with them. Right? Huge red flag. To me, same as like, why can't I do an inspection? Why can't I do a walkthrough? And the first inspection, and they bought the house and then had to put 6 repairs, major repairs. You think that's why he tried to not get an agent inspection? And literally, they'd lived in the house for 10 years. Oh, like it hadn't even dawned on. Like, of course it's why they didn't want an agent. Of course it's why they didn't want, They clearly knew that there was something wrong. They were going to get away with it. And they did. I know, but we're just not that kind of people. And I'm like, you lost 60 grand in the deal. So that's kind of like some examples you can give of like what, how traps, like that's what we're as their agent. Traps, but that's why we're, that's why we're there in their hand. Process and make sure they understand. So
I think it's hopeful. We're like
personalities.
Facebook, it's pretty techy.
Yeah, I mean, and it just talking to them about it and educating them about it. There's just some people who are just going to be funny, that's on them. Yes. Showing them the list, like there is, well, in the packet that you guys give people that you're going to work, there's a really big list of everything that, by looking at that list, they could get overwhelmed pretty quick. Like here's what goes into it. Here's these things come up, and the list. Yeah, like honestly, you might get to it. Yeah, kind of just showing this is actually folds out. So we'll quick because we need to get moving. Objections to appointments. You want to ask the questions. Maybe they're by, maybe they're just kind of kicking things around. I just want to see that one house because it's in their neighborhood and they're curious, whatever. So maybe they're not worth your time. You just never know when that one buyer, they something tomorrow and they're like, actually, I am. So empathize with, find out what the real issue is. Maybe call me on one of my listings and was listed at 1.4 and they were like, we probably won't be able to buy for a year because we just started this. I'm like, they act 700, not 1.4. So not the right buyer for this house. They weren't ready, you know, offer a solution, put you on a plan where, you know, I keep this, you know, work towards that. Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Yes. Huh?
Oh, brother, I have a buyer. Thought they were far out.
Mm-hmm. Something changed. Yeah. That's the thing. Sometimes they don't know. Yep.
Around, saw some problems. Like, this is what really, right? We'll be ready in December, our lease is up in December. So they're like putting me on the loop.
Yeah.
So I got the name,
Mhm.
called them, found out. Your apartment.
Oh, yeah. Mhm. They're
Now
great.
I'm trying to. At the lender, I keep
Mhm.
in touch, send them a. I want to add value. And I would love some tips. On
Here's
that.
with new, this is what I always recommend. A lot of builders will just, and like you kind of are out of the loop. And sometimes it's nice because they'll do everything to do is if there are forks, if there are pre-construction meetings, if there are any of those, I'm there face to face. I get that FaceTime with them and show them to them. I'm at the through meeting, like I just had one yesterday that was where they do the homeowner showing them how the house works, showing them the never seen before, you know? So I'm there. And even the agent that I work with you, because you show up, but you also don't cause problems. He's like, you are, you know, like you're the, they prove that they're important enough so they have problems, you know? So like smooth. It is harder with builders because it's handled by the builder. Yeah,
The builders.
absolutely. And the price doesn't actually,
Really, they would.
no.
Okay.
So there's no difference in price than if there wasn't you there. And the builder is representing the builder. That's their.
Do a buyer consultation. Or
Right. Uh-huh.
my buyer.
They still, so yeah, in new construction, you still do a home inspection if you want to. Some builders will try and talk you out of it, and that's fine. I've had, some won't let you do it, but I had two with actions before the closing, hardly anything up, but I had one action on a brand new townhome in Pleasant Grove, and the inspector found something, a small leak from the roof. It would have gradually gotten small, that it would have become a big problem fixed before. That's the only time I've ever had it to spend the money to do a home inspection for. So yeah, title and everything is good. You're still going to make sure that they know what they need to do to get from A to B. This is similar. It's just agent takes care of a lot of it for you, but by not using it. So. Absolutely. I tell the agents that any emails, because sometimes I've had it happen, even though I ask that, the seller's agent will send addendums to my client, and I'm like, wait, you did what? You sent making sure. Like contract is a fat contract. Looked it over versus them just going DocuSign. It's all just sign, sign, you know? So having you take the time to that is huge. So, but okay, yeah. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. So I'm okay as long as we get done right around. So here you're going to confirm the time. They say, you know, appointment, they never let you forget it. Like you're going to, and all decision makers are there. Listings, you want to make sure that life that are making this decision, they're both there. Conversations with people where divorce situation, and he's like, I don't even know if my wife strained divorce, and there were a lot of things going on. Come to find everything and be done with it. But mom was actually the one that called me, and she talked to us about selling this house, and I'd never met her before. And I'm like, what? Are you on title to this house? And she wasn't. And I was a little skeptical going into it, but I did.
Yes, the family's there. But
Yeah, some mom was doing it because there was so much emotion. The son move on with his life and whatever. You can't get a signed contract. You can't get a signed listing. So you want to make sure they're there. Okay, buyer guide. That's a bit about. So, okay. But here's kind of what we talked about. So needs analysis already done. Kind of finding out what. I like it when they tell me like very consistent news story or whatever. And then I say, well, okay, that's fine. I will show you that. But it's a 2-story and you want a Rambler, but it has a master or whatever. Would you look at it? No. Trying to get a little bit deeper into what their needs are. Getting them pre-qualified, doing the actual home search offer. Because with builders, right, lower price, but some are. I actually had a buyer builder. We were able to negotiate a lower. Builder's agent would not tell you that. Who was that? That was in West Jordan. It was Woodside. So yeah, I always at Woodside they have a deal of the month or whatever all the time. With Woodside that I did, the agent was. We sat down to like start doing the. He had it on his computer. He like turned his screen to see it, and I saw it in his email. It said whatever, and it was the new incentive. I'm like, we need that, and he's like, okay. My clients, that was a lot of money. So notice that they would have never gotten that had they walked the house. 10 grand, that's a lot of money.
do you like working?
I do. Yeah, they're good to work with. Yeah, they're good. Actually, builders that I've had issues with, anyways, seeing that offer, you never this the best we can do? Because they're not going to offer it unless it's some offer. And sometimes they don't even offer those. Like coordinating the making sure pre-closing happens, so that's where your value comes. Here's the buyer guide, and this is what you guys are going to work on tomorrow. It goes through the process, what the process is for searching for, how to use the KW app. You can share that with them, and the website. Actually, some of my clients that are moving here for corporate, they're often like, we need to be within a certain radius. You know, the website has a really cool tool from here to there. That your KW site. Check with Hunter if that. So then it kind of goes through information about you, kind of what's going on in the market, the financial information that's going to be needed for the lender. I usually try to stay a little the lender because I don't dive deep in. That's not my job. My job is sure if the lender calls me and says, hey, I've been asked, gotten it to me, I'm on the phone with them going, you guys really, right, you know, keep the process rolling situation. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, but well, with buyers, I mean, sorry, with sellers, I often ask them when we even for an estimate of what they're going to net. So I want to know what they owe on their mortgage. So I do. That's fine. Yeah. Another lady who she's like, I don't know what I owe. Okay. Look at me and they go, I'm sorry. I'm like, it actually helps me if you tell me that stuff. Like, I need to know what you don't like. Right? Exactly. I do tell people that nowadays. I'm like, they're good or bad, because you could kill your negotiator real fast if you're like, we have to have this. You're toast. They're gonna, you know, because there's cameras. I just assume that. Then you're figuring out like what they want. So the great tool for you to show that just I'm going to open some doors for you and collect dollars, right? It's more than okay. The wish list. this is where if you had to name your top 5 and some people it's like white cabinet. Okay, I can't screen the MLS for that and weeding. And why is that something that's non-negotiable? Maybe you asked her because your mother's coming, right? Why is that important? Telling them about all those things is going to get you deeper to the motive. Do you have any preference for the year that built? That can be an interesting one. Because I always, if find a house that was built in 1970, it's been gutted and completely remodeled. You do that. So again, your search has to fit. And I always tell them, like when I set up automate it to go to them, I tell them up front, I'm like, you're going to get more houses than what you're in. And I'd rather you get more and you weed them out, something that would have been a good possibility for you. Does the house need to be, or are you willing to do, my favorite, had these young, we want a fixer-upper. It was at the beginning of that trend, probably 15. And then we want a fixer-upper. I'm like, okay. I think I showed them 5 and everyone, oh, this is too much work. Oh, this is, and I was like, okay, well, let's just go look at some other. And I showed them a house that was move-in ready and they want a fixer-upper. They liked the idea of a fixer-upper. They want it. We'll cruise through that. This in command, like how you can, how, this is where I like, this is how the buying process works. It might even go on to more. Yeah, 2 page, all the things that's gonna, okay, I can't do all this. I need someone to be on my, you know. Obviously we've got our connections there. Can customize this to this. Again, you can use your past before real estate experience as what you're helpful in, but you can also, and KWR stats in here. You don't, you know, have your, okay, ahas. Anything I'm talking, I apologize. Try and get, oh, another thing, buyers. So there's to go above and beyond. So I think it was mentioned yesterday in the video. If you have a client who, I have this happen all the time, we have to live within this ward boundaries. I'm like, that's like 50 houses, you know, but it doesn't all, that's close, but not quite. Sometimes it's boundaries or things like that, so I have like sent letters to people looking for a home in this neighborhood and about selling. Have you considered? What most agents will do, look on the MLS. If it's not there, you know, maybe you go knock doors, maybe you do whatever. But you're showing your buyer that you're doing extra. Sometimes even a lot of my buyers have not been putting all their inventory on the MLS. So I have one Ivory, I have Eve. For this, I have, you know, somebody that I contact. And Ivory's really actually the worst at it. But then I call Eve and I'm like, hey, I have clients in this neighborhood. And she's like, we have 3 other homes. So other agents who are making those calls are not going to even know those homes exist. And I'm getting 3%, you know? So just those extra bits that you're working for them. Okay, I'm gonna cruise here. So to expect is a confident buyer. Buyer's easy to work with. So comfortable throughout the whole process. And that's setting them up, explaining to them, educating them who's then they're not going to do those things that are going to drive up in a Mercedes that they shouldn't have drove up in. So, and then because you set them up to expect, they are great and they're going to work with you again and again and send you referrals. It's the key. So let's go through this. But preparing mentally is also a big thing, because I remember as a brand new agent, 22 years old, I had bought one home. I didn't know the process. I still remember I used to wear would go into client appointments and I would wear my look smarter and older. I was like, I'm, respectable and reputable. I didn't have the confidence behind me and caring. And I am the best agent for these clients. Like, I'm the best agent to meet. They're going to appreciate my expertise and my preparation. Want to choose me. Welcome the buyer. Here's the neediness breakdown. So you're going over all this with them. Oh, letters. That's what they call it. So I have one offer situations with let. I'll make my clients let me have ed permission if they do want to send one over. Include anything that would be fair housing. And marital status, kids. Say we picture our kids celebrating house. You've got kids, you've got like that's 3 different fair houses just brought up right there. Like that. But the one I thought was really funny, I had a client, actually 2, one down in Massachusetts, and it was a multiple, and this was back when multiple offers were not that common. But my client's moving here. We went down into the basement of this house, and he was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm at home here. It was that. We said, they're moving here from Mass. They walked into the basement and felt completely, and we got it. So you never know. Specifically asked for a letter, which was kind of weird, but again, careful to leave out any, marital status or whatever. They had chickens, like a chicken coop and stuff. He taking chickens out, taking the eggs and selling them down. That hit a point of motion. The things people pick up on, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's like,
Mm.
but she's Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Right?
And I'm like,
You can't bring out the ethnic, right?
just say,
Yeah, or I felt very at home without specifically.
I actually said, they noticed.
Yeah, yeah.
I should have said that, but I should have said, please cut me off.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with multiple offer my sellers up front. If there's a chance we're gonna letters, I will not give them to you till after we close. If you want to see them, great. But that's, you've just hit, protected clauses. The listing agent. Mm-hmm. It falls on the buyer's agent too, to some degree. For my listing, I don't want to be accused of breaking. And that's what would happen. I would be causing that to happen.
My seller kept asking questions. So are they like family with kids?
And you can, yeah, say, I don't know, I can't tell you. That is hard when you do know. Are they already under contract, or was that like? So that's hard,
And
yeah.
so we started I did say, his intent, he noticed your computers, because your intent works at Facebook, I said
Mhm.
that. I was not prepared. as
Well,
much as I should be.
usually, because if we have like more than 3 off, and I put them into a spreadsheet with 6, earnest money, information of the offer. I don't even put the buyer's name on the spreadsheet. Then that could be a fair housing, like, I recognize that as whatever ethnicity or whatever. Agent's name, first and last initial, which offered a reference, because I had one that we got like I got to go back through all these and figure out which one was this agent. But it's interesting the things that sellers over another, but they should be looking at this of the offer. This is sometimes emotions get into play, and they want to. It's a great little family that buys this house, and we recently I was raised in this house. My dad just want to make sure that this goes to a young family. You can't. I'm like, we really can't. We really can't even, in your contract, I think you could potentially add, it's not really the seller's business. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Then why wouldn't you talk to Open House? They've been visiting Bridgefield.
Oh,
So then he kind of thought,
they,
oh, I should have said that.
yeah, it's times, but I mean, that's unfair though to say, like, they have ability to be able to buy that house, like there's a lot of things that could play into that, but you don't want to be the one accused of. Yeah.
You make the spreadsheet call the offer.
Usually, but sometimes I'll bring it to him, or I'll bring my computer and we'll go through it together. Yeah.
And then if you do a phone call, you said,
Yeah, I email it to him, for sure. Whip through here. All right, we want this signed. That's gonna become, like I said, easier. Important to address how we work paid. I still am shocked at the people, and just because we've been in this industry and I've been in this industry, like I assume everybody knows that. But with people that I haven't, I usually do like sit them down and be like, let me explain how realtors work. So need to sign contract. This is how I get paid. That it's in the RevC now, so it's easy. Offer your KW app, setting expectations for next, and you have to have a plan already. Like, okay, next Saturday or whatever, like whatever where you guys, do you want to go out tomorrow night? Less, give them neighborhood information. Make sure they're pre-qualified. Don't waste time showing one for 700,000. Okay. What do you guys think? What questions do you have? That really, really fast? How do you feel about working with buyers? Do you feel confident? Do you feel it's fun? Buyers loved working with buyers when it feels me than a listings kind of feel a little daunting. Like it was fun for me. I still do both. I do 50, but I love their listing agent. Working with sellers teaches me how to be a agent, because you see both sides of it. People expect what the market changes. Okay, now expect this. Now my buyers expect this. market. I've seen so many shifts in the 28 years. To, oh, maybe I don't want to be a realtor anymore. This is hard. It was really hard. A lot of emotion and a lot of others coming to closing, bringing money so they didn't have to do a short. I remember feeling guilty that I was getting paid when they were my job, right? Like, but it's hard. It's hard. We're in a good market. Like, it's actually a pretty good time to be an agent. The average time on market was 6. That was average. When we took a listing, we would take it for a year. If we could get the seller to agree, because it is only 6 months. So chances are it could go to 9, 10, The average now we're at what, 60 days, something like that? I can put, oh, maybe even 30. Okay. Very closely, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing. Sell a house that quickly, and some houses are, that's great. It's a good time to be a seller, terrible time to be a buyer. I just think markets that I've seen over the years, I wish I would have bought more real estate and kept it. Like, we bought some, and I just wish I would have kept it, like market, it never goes down for 8, 9, 10. I had a client that was buying a condo, like a BYU condo, it's like a radiologist or something, I don't even know. And he was like, well, tell a 20-year history of the price of condos. And so we did. We went back and looked. Dip, but it always went back up. So over time, buying, and you get to help people. You get to help people be part of that. People love their first, I think, a lot, and just having that experience, you get to build that bond and then go on that relationship. Do you guys have any questions? All right. Yeah. Right now, buyer, yeah. 30 days average on market, that's 120, that's when it starts to shift to buyers. It's getting to balanced, but still more sellers. Oops. You're welcome. Sorry I raced through. I didn't mean to be racing through.